Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at Transmission, which is a cross-platform open source torrent client. It has a GUI, a web client and a command line interface, and that's what I'm going to be taking a look at. So first of all, what I'm going to do, come across and download some public domain movies from archive.org to actually demonstrate this. So what I'm going to do is download the torrent for Night of the Living Dead and Big Buck Bunny. And what you can see here is the Transmission web UI and the Transmission daemons running. And you can see these are the files here. So it's basically starting to download them. And if I click the Get Info button, what you see is when you click this, it will give you some information about it. And if you click this section here, Files, you will actually see all the files that it's going to download. And if I select Night of the Living Dead, you can see typically on archive.org what they do is package multiple different formats into the torrent, so like MP4s, OGG videos, etc. And you can come across and deselect these to not download them. But what I'm going to do is actually show you a script that I wrote. So what this is the transmission remote being piped into FZF, and this isn't this display isn't updated. It's a static display at the time you launch the script. What it allows us to do is actually select the torrents and run scripts on those torrents. So what I want to do here is I'm going to press Tab to select both these torrents. I'm going to press Return. And that gives us next another menu. And what this is going to do is run functions on those torrents that we've selected. So if I want to pause them, I can just type pause. And you can see here, if I switch back, these have now both been paused. So what I'm going to do is go through all the different options in the script and how you can use them, and how it actually makes using transmission a bit quicker from the command line. So what I'm going to do is basically, this is the first screen. This is the output of transmission remote -L, which will basically list the torrents. And it said you can search from here, so I can narrow the search by typing Night of the Living Dead. I can select stuff based on the percentage that's been done. You know, the stopped. I can basically select stuff on any of these items here. So obviously stopped, you know, it's highlighting that, or you know, or the name. And then once I've selected these, so it gives us this second menu. So these are the options that you can run on the torrents that you've selected. You can start them. So click Start here. You'll see it's going to start them again. Give it a second to kick in. It's starting them again. Select them both. Pause. And what we can do here is we can do info. And what that's going to do is that's actually going to print out the info for each of the torrents here. So you can see here it's like Night of the Living Dead. It's giving the ID, the hash, the magnet, the file size, comments. So you can see here, name Big Buck Bunny. So it's printing out all the torrent info on the selected files. So what we want to do now is actually come through and run the next function, which is show files in torrent. So when I run that, what you can see here is it's actually printing out Night of the Living Dead, and it's printing out all the files in that torrent, as well as Big Buck Bunny here. So the next thing is we can either get or no get items in the torrent. So what we want to do is run no get. We can just basically run no get. And what that will do is that's giving us a list of all the files in the selected torrents, and we can now deselect the ones we don't want. And we can do that just by pressing Tab. It's coming through, tab, 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 tab. We just want the MP4. We'll press the down arrow to skip that one. tab. So we've deselected all files we don't want in Night and Living Dead. We press return. We're now prompted to deselect files in the Big Bunny torrent. Again, we just come through tab, 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 tab. Oop. Oop. So deselect all those. You can see success. And if we have a look at these now here, you can see, I think just because I was going through, I've sort of deselect everything. It's complete. It's downloaded. You can see here. So basically what we've done is we've deselected all these files from these two torrents in one go, instead of having to come in, select here and deselect all the stuff like that. We've just done it in the terminal in one go. So what I want to do now is come through some of the other options. So we're going to select both of these. Actually, this one's finished, so what we're going to do is just select that, and what we can do is we can say remove. So remove removes the torrent from the list. It doesn't delete the data, whereas purge will remove the torrent and delete the data. So we want to remove the torrent. So you can see this is going to remove that there, but the torrent is actually downloaded. Night of the Living Dead, you can see there it's downloaded. So say I want to I don't want Big Buck Bunny, I want to purge it. So I'll run blackrain, select that, purge, and that's going to remove the torrent and the data. You can see it's deleted it there. So that's the transmission remote piped into FZF. So what I'm going to do now is actually go through the script and show you how all this this works. So I'll just switch back here. So first of all, what we do is we run transmission remote -l, send that to dev null, and swap standard error and standard out. And what we're then doing is we're checking if that command has worked. If that command hasn't worked, rather, we then know that the transmission daemon isn't running. So we start the transmission daemon and sleep for 0.1 of a second before we move on to the next bit of the script. Now what this does here is this is the transmission remote. So let me just switch to a split screen and swap those round. So if I run transmission remote -l, what you'll see here, I maybe switch back and forth, but what you'll see, what it does is it prints out, I haven't got anything there now because it's finished downloading. I just, let me get one of those, let me download that again so you can actually see. Okay. So if I run transmission remote again, what you'll see is it's listing the files, and what you can see here is we've got an ID, and that's how it identifies the torrent. You've got the percentage, how much it's downloaded, the ETA, the up and down speed, the status, and the name. And then finally what it has down here is the sum, and that's the amount of stuff that's been downloaded. So what we actually need to do first of all is we don't want this sum. So what we do is we actually pipe that output into head, so -n1. God's sake, what am I doing in my terminal? Sorry, head -n1. Sorry, -1, and what that does is that removes the bottom bit. And then basically what we do is we pipe this through awk. So I'll grab that, switch back here, we pipe that through awk. What that does is it runs sort. It skips the first line, it skips this header because you obviously don't want to sort the header, and it sorts on the second column. So what it's going to do is it's going to sort this second column by the percentage done. So 100 is going to be at the bottom and 0 is going to be at the top, which is what we want. After that, we then pipe that into FZF, with the multi selection enabled, so we can select multiple torrents. We set it to be inline, and we set the layout to be reversed, which basically means it's going to be at the top. And this option here, -- header lines equals 1, what that does is that sets the first line of the input, which is the header, to be a header in FZF, so it doesn't think it's something you can select. And then we basically create a prompt that says select torrents. And then after that, what we're doing is we're selecting the first field, which is actually going to be the ID of the torrent. So when you select the torrents, what it's doing is it's actually selecting the ID of the torrent. So if I come back here, you can see here, basically we have this thing that says select torrents, and we have this menu here, and this isn't selectable, and it's nicely, highlighted in my terminal. Once we've done that, once we've got something selected, we press enter, we then get this next menu, and this is where we run the functions. So we've got start, pause, info, files, get items and torrent, no get items and torrent. Those are the actual transmission commands. So I call them the same thing, if you're wondering why they're called that. And also, I say no get items rather than files, because when you're trying to get files, otherwise it will select these. So these are the options like get more peers, remove, purge. So basically what I'm going to do is just come through and show you the actual script and how it works. So first thing what we've got here is if the input, which is this, is empty, then exit. So like if you press escape, so it will escape out back to the terminal. And what we have down here is the main function. And what this does is basically it takes the output from FZF and goes through it line by line. It reads line by line. And what it's going to do is we're saying basically echo the input, which is the list of torrents. And then what it's going to do is it's going to run transmission remote -t, and this line is actually going to be the ID of the torrent. So when you're using a transmission remote command and you're operating on torrents, what you have to do is actually specify the ID of the torrent that you want to operate on. So that's going to run that, and then this one option, this is an argument that is passed to the function. So with the transmission remote command, a lot of the commands are similar. It'll be like transmission remote -t1 --start -pause -remove. So instead of creating functions for each of those commands, what we can do is create a single function and pass arguments to it. So these two are special cases, the get files and no get files functions, because we create a sub menu with FZF to actually select the files and then either get them or don't get them. So what I'm doing is just skip over these, and this is the actual menu. This is how we create the text for the FZF menu. So sorry, this menu here, start, stop. I'm just going to pause that torrent. So that's how we create the menu with this text here. And then what we have is this menu variable. And what we're doing is we're printing each of these things here on a new line and piping those into FZF. And then we create a prompt that says run transmission function, and we set it to be inline, set to be at the top, that's layout reverse, and no multiple selection. And then finally what we have down here is this is the actual case statement. So what this does is basically these all correspond to the items in the menu, and what we're doing is we're running the main TRD function, which stands for transmission daemon, and passing in these options. So as I said, what we got up here is this function here, TRD, which loops over what's passed into it a line at a time, and then runs transmission remote, and then the ID of the torrent, and then the argument. And the argument is going to be these items down here. So like, as I said, --start, --stop, --info, re-announce for more peers, --info -files to show the files. And these are the get and no get, which run separate functions. And then we've got remove and delete. So that's basically how we create the maps the functions to what you selected in the menu. So when you select start, it's going to run transmission daemon, the ID of the torrent --start. To pause it, it's going to be the same but stop, and so on. So this is basically how the script works. Again, quick recap: we check if transmission's running. If not, we start it. We create a list of the torrents from the transmission remote -l option. Type that into FZF. If there's nothing, if there's no selection you've escaped, we just quit back to the terminal. We've got the main function down here. Then we've got the get files, and basically what this does is we create a selection variable, and we run transmission remote --info files, and we pipe that into FZF. And then finally what we have to do is we actually pipe that into awk to manipulate the output, because the get files and the no get files commands require both the ID of a torrent and also a number that corresponds to the file you want to download or not download, separated by a comma. So you have to run like transmission remote -t like 4-g 0 1 2 3 4, all separated by commas, to select the things you want to download or don't want to download. And doing it from the command line is a pain, because it's just too long-winded to actually type that out. So that's basically how the script works. There's the menu, there's the actual FZF menu, so that's the text for the menu, that's how it's constructing the menu, and finally the case statement, which basically sees what you selected in the menu, and then so like basically start, pause, whatever, and then just runs a function with these arguments to the transmission remote command. So that's basically how that works. So if I come across back to this, see I've got this paused now. Let's just go through again, download Big Buck Bunny. I think it may have already downloaded it all, but wrong one again. Oh, doing fingers and thumbs. Okay, so here's the torrents. As I said, you can narrow the search like that, just to select one thing, and then we'll say okay, no get, deselect the files. Oops. Tab, shift tab will deselect. So do that, and that's basically going to, as you can see here, deselect those files. And let's go through this one here. So this is a good example. You want to deselect all those. No get, tab through all of it, move on to the next line, tab, and you can see it's just deselect everything there, and I think it's finished already. So again, if I want to purge that, if I want to remove that from the list, so that's finished. So from this screen, I can basically narrow the stuff down. I can just type finished, and it's going to show me just the stuff that's finished. once I've got all the things that finished, if I had multiple items, I'd just select them with the tab, press return, and then I just type remove, and that's going to remove the torrent from the list, but keep the data. If I wanted to purge it, that would remove the torrent and delete the data. So you can see that's been removed. That's going to finish that seeding complete there. So if I don't want that, I can just type purge, and that's going to remove it. So that's how you can use a transmission remote with FZF. Basically, give transmission a bit of a boost because the web UI is actually sort of quite limited. Show all. As I said, I don't think this actually shows the IDs. So the problem is if you're trying to use the web UI to see the IDs, you won't be able to see it. So as I said, you have to use something like viddy or the watch command to basically loop over the transmission remote. So I got a function called trd watch that basically uses viddy, which gotbletu covered in a recent video. It's a new version of the watch command that allows you to scroll up and down. And this will basically show you the IDs and everything. But I said you can't interact with this. So that's why I wanted something that would allow me to run transmission commands on particular torrents that I've selected with FZF. So it just makes it easier. So you can create a new, put that in. So got nothing in there at the moment, as you can see. But basically, you can sort of run commands in one terminal and check the output in viddy. But the issue is this output isn't sorted, and it's you can't interact with it. So it's a bit of a pain. But let me just download this again, so you can just see when it's running, see when that kicks in here. Put that full screen, you'll see that's running and downloading there. But the issue again is that you can't actually select anything here. It's a sort of static display, and you're going to have another terminal open to actually run the terminal commands. So if I just come across back to Emacs, one thing I did want to show you was the transmission auto completions. So you can enable completions for the transmission daemon, remote, show, CLI, create, edit, pwgen commands by adding this code to your zsh config, which would be your .zshrc file, compdef_gnu_generic, and then the name of the command. And basically what that does is if I run transmission daemon and then -- and then press tab, what you'll see is it's going to give me the auto completions for transmission daemon. And if you don't have these options enabled in your zsh config file, at least on Ubuntu, it doesn't seem to automatically enable zsh completions. You won't get any completions at all for these commands. So I can run transmission remote -- and press tab. Yeah, and this is basically going to show you all of the commands that you can run with FZF. So I could have actually used this to create a menu for FZF, but a lot of these options don't operate globally. They're not something that operates on a particular torrent. So, encryption, that's maybe not a good option, but block list, or no alt speed. Some of these things aren't stuff you're going to want to apply to a torrent. You're just going to want to pause it, stop it, delete it, deselect files, that sort of thing. But this is basically a list of all of the commands that you can run with the transmission remote. So that's basically a lowdown of transmission and how you can use it. In the web interface, you can get a GUI, and you can use it in the command line. And I said, you can basically create functions. See, have I come across to gotbletu on GitHub? He's actually got some, he's written a load of functions for transmission. So if I just come down here to transmission RST. So these are a list of basically functions that he sort of created. So instead of like, having to type transmission remote dash whatever, dash stop, you just basically run these commands. He's got them TSM, I'm doing TRD. But basically these are a load of functions that you can add to your shell config file to make it easier to, for instance, add a torrent. So instead of running transmission remote dash add and then putting a file in, let me see what have I got here, Night of the Living Dead, pause that and grab the torrent link for this. So on the command line, I can just run trd add and paste in the link to either a torrent or a magnet file. Okay, you can see there that will have now added that to transmission. So again, if I wanted to stop that, normally what you have to do is run like stop. You've got to find the actual ID of the file. So unless I'm missing something, there isn't any way to show the ID here of the file. It's not actually going to show you that in the web UI. So what you have to do is, like run transmission remote -L. You can see here, okay, Big Bunny is 10. So transmission remote, you've got to run -T n -stop. So that's basically many terminals. That's paused it, but that's basically how you would have to do stuff in the terminal. You'd have to get the ID and then sort of run a command and specify the ID of the torrent. And again, you probably have to use something like watch or viddy to keep a list of all the torrents going up, and then crack open another terminal and try and find the IDs of the torrents you want to work with. So just having a script like this allows you to select any of the torrents, narrow stuff down, whatever the name. So Big Bunny, Night of the Living Dead. I could select by as again, if it's stopped, if it had finished. But basically, I can select stuff with tab. So first screen is the selecting the torrents, what you want to work on. Then what functions you want to run on the things that you've selected. So again, I can do start, pause. This showed you no get, so I can just deselect things. come through here, deselect all of those. Again, you know, I could show info on the files. I can show the info, or you know, list all the files and list out all the files in that torrent. Ask for more peers, remove the files. Again, the difference between remove and purge is removes the torrent from transmission, but it keeps the data. Purge will remove the torrent from transmission and delete the data. So that's going to remove the files completely. So you make sure you know what you're doing with that one, because there's no prompt. Are you sure? Like you get in the web UI, it's just going to delete them. So just purge those. You can see now going to delete both those files. So it's a really quick way of being able to select stuff, filter it down, and then run a function on the things that you selected, basically. And as I said, I haven't put in stuff. There's lots of options you could put in a script like this, but it doesn't make sense to me to have, because you're working with a list of stuff, you're selecting stuff. There's no point putting stuff in like add a torrent or anything like that, because you can basically just bring up the command line and run trd like add, and then paste in the torrent, and that's going to do it. So I've only selected options that kind of really made sense, and that were sort of difficult to perform otherwise, like selecting multiple files or deselecting multiple files in a torrent. So that's just why there's only a few options in the actual script. You can see that I haven't got anything in there to actually show you now, but there was where's the fucking so that's why there's only a couple of options. You know, start, pause, info shows info about the thing. Get more peers, show the file list. Get the files or don't get them. Remove and purge. Really, all you need, because you can do some of the other stuff on the command line, like change the download speed or that sort of thing. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to the script under the video, and again, the other thing that you can do is enable completions. So that's how you enable completions for what is it, transmission remote. And the other thing that I might as well show you is newsboat and RSS feeds. What I'm going to do now is switch across to the terminal and start a VPN. And okay. Oh. Right. Okay, so it's going to start the VPN up, and what this will do is when it's kicked in, right? So what this also does is whenever you create a split root VPN using Linux namespaces, it's going to create a directory in etc netns. You can see I've got a directory there called VPN, and that's the name of the namespace that I've created. And what we can do is we can actually use this to check if a VPN is active or not by just checking if there's a directory inside etc ns. So what I'm just going to do is come across to my zsh config and come down to this bit of code here. And basically what this is let me zoom out a bit actually. I'm checking if the VPN is active, and if it is, what I'm doing is I'm running a script called namespace that puts a command into that Linux network namespace. With newsboat, what you can actually do is you can specify separate config files and separate URL files and a separate cache file, and that's what I'm doing. I'm creating a function called torrent feeds. So what this is going to do is it's going to launch newsboat over the VPN. So if I just run newsboat normally, this is my regular newsboat output that I showed in a previous video, how to categorize stuff like this. So this is newsboat with my regular URLs and config. But if I now run torrent feeds, what you see is it's opening up a completely different list of URLs. And what these are is these are all torrent feeds, just for examples. And basically what I wanted to do is I'm just coming across into here to show you how the format looks for these feeds. Basically what they are is each item in a feed normally has a link to an article, a web page. In a feed with torrents, what they show is the magnet link. And what you can actually do is, if I come across to my newsboat config, okay, so if I come across to .config newsboat config torrents, what you can actually do is specify transmission remote as the external browser. So this section here that I've got commented out, because I'm running a slightly more complex command. Basically, if you just set browser transmission remote -- add, and then in single quotes %u, what that will do is whenever you click a feed that has got a magnet or a torrent link in it, it will actually send that to transmission remote and add it as an item. And obviously you'd only use this for stuff that's legit. You know, you can use it for creating an RSS feed of latest Linux ISOs. You could use feeds from archive.org. It was just so happened that I came across basically a list of regular torrent sites and the formats that they use for different sort of stuff, so the different categories, and basically you can then create a separate config file and a separate URLs file, and then basically with newsboat you can specify -c for the new config file, and that's where you would define transmission remote as the browser, because torrent RSS feeds, you can't open them with a browser because they're just magnet links or torrent links. So it doesn't make any sense to have something that can open a magnet link that can't open it. And then the -u option is where you can specify a path to a different URL list of URLs, and the -C option is where you can specify a path to a separate cache file for newsboat. So you want to, if you're using separate config files and separate URLs for newsboat, you want to create a separate cache file for those URLs as well, because otherwise it gets a bit confused. But that's basically how you can use newsboat to pull in RSS feeds and set transmission remote as a browser, so that whenever you click try to open the article, it's going to send it to transmission remote and basically start downloading it. And basically it was just an easier way to keep up with stuff. And instead you can create meta queries for particular tags, and and add tags and create custom names for each of these feeds. Basically, what you do is the way this is formatted, as I've explained in separate videos. These all show up as the titles. Like queries and the name of the thing. And basically, if I was to go into one of these, which I won't, they're only for example. Basically, it would send the feed to the item in the feed to transmission. So that's just a little quick thing I was also working on, is how you pull in RSS feeds with transmission, with newsboat rather than sending transmission. And again, this is the web UI for transmission, and it's a bit limited, and it's a pain when you've got lots of files to select, because you've got to deselect them manually like that. So that's why I just wanted to come up with something that was a bit more usable, rather than running commands on the command line, to pause individual torrents, having to check the ID for each torrent is a bit of a pain. So it's just much easier, much quicker, as I said, for one fine time, if I just download these. See, they'll come up listed there in a second. And if I just run transmission moat-l, you see that's the output. And again, you can run like watch. You can run the watch command, which will basically loop over that every 2 seconds. Or you can run viddy, which is an application written in Go that gotbletu covered in the previous video just did, which is a modern version of the watch command that lets you scroll. And as you can see here, by default, it's going to come out like this: every 2 seconds, command, time. You can Control C to get out of this. And so the issue with this is you can't interact with it. It's not going to be sorted by percentage done. It's just showing that. So I've only got 2 here, but it's not sorted, so it's difficult to actually see. And if you run it with the -T option, it will remove that title at the top. So it will just give you it like this. So you can have this open and put that files, and if I just I can basically go like that and go pause. So you can have this open. And make that a bit bigger. Can I make that a bit bigger? Getting leading keystrokes. You can see that's paused. Do like this. I can select that one. Start it. You only have to start typing S. So I can just type S. Start torrent. And that one's going to kick in and start. And you'll see here in the viddy command, basically it's going to carry on. You can see the sum here. It's a bit difficult to actually do anything. Well, you can't do anything with this. So I said you probably keep this open on one window, and then just run a script like this. Let's just do get. Let's do no get again. Just no get. Doing. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong key. So, and then again, I can select multiple files from here. And see, that's basically downloaded everything now. That's there. I can see that running. And again, if I just want to remove that, purge. going to delete them. So it's just really quick and easy to be able to select all torrents that are finished, that stopped, need more peers, you want to select stuff or deselect stuff. And it's a lot easier than just having to constantly, even if you're using a function or an alias, to have to type, pause, TRD, pause, number 4, number 5, number 6, that sort of thing. A bit of a pain, so I just wanted to make something that's a bit easier to use. So I'll put links to all this under the video. And again, gotbletu's done some functions that you can actually add to your shell config file, either bash or zshrc, that makes things a bit easier. Show, remove, start, stop, start a daemon, kill a daemon, that sort of thing. If I come across to YouTube, he did a video about viddy. And you can see here, yeah, that's the video he did about viddy recently. And if you come across and search for viddy GitHub, okay, this is it, modern watch command. And basically, to install it on Linux, you can just copy this, and what it's going to do is it's going to install viddy to user local bin. Or you could just download the tar.gz file from the releases, unzip it, stick it in your bin directory in your home. So that's viddy. Again, it's got stuff like diff highlighting. You can scroll up and down, which you can't in the watch command. And gotbletu covers that, all the benefits of that. And basically, this shows you his sort of workflow, which was having the watch command or viddy up, showing all the torrents, and then basically, running a script, a command in another terminal to pause something or start it. But again, the problem is you've got to specify the ID, ID 4 or ID 5, pause or play, not play, stop stuff. So it just got me thinking about how that could perhaps sort of be improved. Instead of running commands on the command line, wouldn't it be easier to actually have a list of all your torrents, be able to filter them by whatever criteria, stopped, paused, finished, and then run functions on those things you've selected to select or deselect files from the torrent, pause, delete, remove, that sort of thing. So I'll put all links to this under the video, but basically just install the script in your bin directory, run it, and it will do what it says on the tin, and stop, start, show info on files, that sort of thing. So that's all for now, and hope that's useful.